Welcome back to ASBR Boxing. Just a quick reaction video to the show in Newcastle tonight, where Ohara Davies has stopped Lewis Ritson in round number 9. Just going to be me taking you through it this evening. I think all the other boys are away watching that DAZN tag team boxing, something like that. Strange. Anyway, this was a huge fight in the career of both men. It's a cliche, but it really was a crossroads fight. Ritson sort of been trying to get his career going again up at 140. Remember that crazy run he went on at lightweight to win the British title outright, stopping everyone in like a round or two, and it's just not been the same up at 140. Like he said, a couple of decent wins, but needed something big to get people hyped about the career of Lewis Ritson again. I think that's fair to say. And Davies, on the other hand, has bounced back really well. First of all, from the defeat to Josh Taylor very early on, and more recently to Jack Catterall, and found himself in a really good position with the WBA. And this fight was actually a final eliminatory to become mandatory challenger for the WBA belt, which is currently held by Alberto Puello, I believe the name is. So yeah, stakes really high here for the careers of both men. The loser would not be in a good spot after this one. So anyway, on to the fight itself. First 3 rounds, I had Davies up 2-1. Wouldn't argue with 3-0. However, they were competitive. It was a competitive fight after 3 rounds. You couldn't be concrete in what way it was going to go. Ritson seemed to be handling Davies's power okay. His jab, he was winning the battle of the jabs, Ritson, I felt, and landed some good body work that you felt maybe could pay dividends later on in the fight. The 4th round was the first time you started to see things swing Ohara Davies's way. Davies made his power tell, I think, in that round for the first time in the fight. And Ritson began to look a bit uncomfortable and began to become a bit aware of, the level of puncher where Ohara Davies was. And he was taking loads of shots off him. And he become sort of a bit more tentative to engage towards the end of that round. So that was the first sort of warning signs for Lewis Ritson, like proper warning signs. That said, he had a great round in the 5th, his best round of the fight by far, probably the only round you could categorically definitely give to Lewis Ritson. I think Davies tried to sneak around off, get behind the jab, but Ritson, to be fair, didn't let him and made him work harder than he probably wanted to, and definitely won the round clearly, I felt. And there was a sense that could potentially have been a turning point in the fight for Ritson, particularly if the body shots began to pay dividends later on, and Davies had expended more energy than he wanted to, because he did put a lot into the shots early. They were big shots. They were, power punches. Uppercuts was landing a lot from the right hand, the left hook, and he's a muscular fighter, Ohara Davies, and you felt maybe the fight could be turning Ritson's way, but didn't turn out that way. The 6th round was a big round for Davies, even bigger than the 4th. Badly hurt Ritson with a left hook straight on the solar plexus, and Ritson was in clear distress mode at this stage. Managed to see out the round, but the 7th was even worse for him. Hurt to the body again. There was a stage I thought he might not be too far away from getting stopped, to be honest. He was sort of buckled up against the ropes and began to stop throwing back, and maybe 3 or 4 more seconds like that, and the referee probably would have looked to step in. But to be fair to him, he fought his way out of that particular Davies onslaught when I'm sure he was in a lot of pain, and managed to see that round out. But I felt fairly certain at that stage there was really no way back for Ritson into that fight after that 7th round in particular. I mean, he had, relatively speaking, a decent 8th round, given how bad the 6th and 7th were. Like, he sort of changed up his style and got more on Davies's chest and turned it into like a fight in a phone booth type thing, which sort of took away Davies's ability to find the space to land the shots that were so hurtful and get like the leverage and torque on them or whatever. And Davies definitely still won the 8th, but he sort of slowed the tide a bit in that 8th round to Lewis Ritson, but proved to be inconsequential because the 9th, again, both men head to head. Davies just sort of stepped off a bit, left hook, right on the body, and that was it. Ritson was down. He was in agony. He was screaming in pain, and he wasn't even fit to attempt to beat the referee's count. And that was the end of the fight. And all in all, I think a dominant Ohara Davies win is the only way to really describe that. It was a close fight at the odds, and looking back, Davies made a bit of a mockery of them. He looked a level above Lewis Ritson, like, no disrespect. And as I say, after that 6th and 7th round, the 7th in particular, there was only one winner of that fight, and huge for Ohara Davies, huge. Obviously, mandatory challenger for that WBA belt, which he may have to wait a while because I believe Puello is fighting Rolly Romero, who boxed Tank Davis last year, for that belt next. I think he's current mandatory, and then Davies will be next after that. So it'll be interesting to see who's in ownership of the belt by the time Davies does get his shot. But it was just a huge weight. Because the fight didn't probably get the hype it deserved. I don't know, maybe not did too much for the profile of Ohara Davies, but I think that performance and his position with the WBA now, I think there'll be a few big promoters knocking on Ohara Davies's door. Because he looks to have massively improved. Particularly since that Josh Taylor fight, and the power is real. The power is real. No one's done that to Lewis Ritson the way Davies did. I know Vasquez stopped them badly, but this was a beatdown from like the 4th round and the 5th round and the 6th round and 7th round, and like battered him to the body. And Davies is a proper puncher at 140, so I'll be interested to see how he goes moving forward. What his next move is as he potentially waits for that world title shot. But we shall see. That's enough waffling from me. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe to ESBR. Let me know your thoughts on the fight and where you think both men go from here. Long road back for Lewis Ritson. But that's enough for tonight. Cheers, folks.